Vertigo Nation, welcome back to another episode, yeah. That's right, this is your host, Sean. Thank you for joining me. Coming up on this episode, we're going to be talking about what happens when you feel like a nobody going nowhere, which is kind of impossible because we're all somebody heading somewhere. But, you know, what do I know? Anyway, I guess it's time to cue the music and let your head spin. Let's go. Vertigo Nation, welcome back to another episode. This is your host, Sean. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for finding me. And, you know, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Why not? You're going to love this episode if you're new here. I promise you, you're going to want to go back and listen to the other ones. You know, I'm confident in that. So go ahead. Just take a second right now and hit that subscribe button. I promise this is the podcast that will make your head spin. All right. Coming off the back of a great episode with Dr. Bagnell. If you have not had a chance to listen to that yet, please go back and listen to it. I also, that was my first time experimenting with Riverside, which I think I'm going to switch to full time as a podcaster. Riverside offers some great tools, and I really did enjoy it. However, it comes with a learning curve. I did try to record video with Dr. Bagnell and I, and there was an intense echo. Now, in fairness, my building was also experiencing an internet outage at the time, which I was unbeknownst to me. I didn't know that when we were recording that, and I almost lost the audio because of it. I was able to strip it from the video and then had to do a ton of work to get rid of the echo and whatnot. So I'm glad I was able to save it because that was such an amazing episode. I didn't want to have to go back and ask to re-record it. One, because it loses the vibe. You know, I love the excitement of, of it being new and fresh. I also look forward to having Dr. Bagnell on again. I think he was an incredible guest. I think that anybody who has already listened to it has agreed because I've gotten several messages, comments, emails saying that they want to hear more, which I think is great. I also left that conversation wanting more. I could have went 2-3 hours easily. That could have been a very long podcast. And the only reason we really didn't go any longer is because Doctor had patients, obviously, and he needed to get with them. So I am truly honored, excited by all the feedback. Huge thanks to everybody who's listening. And I think Dr. Bagnell was an incredible guest. And yes, I hope that there is plenty more to come, but also other guests that want to join. I mean, and here's a great point, right? I'm setting up Riverside now. If you want to do a podcast, he was in South Florida, for crying out loud, Miami area. So, I mean, we have the capability to do it. So get on the horn, go and get it. My email, vertigopod@gmail.com. And people are also finding me on my personal email, which is absolutely fine because it is what it is. But that's smacked76, so SMACD76 @gmail.com. Either one of those emails will get to me, and we can get you scheduled and get you on the show. Because this is not only the podcast that makes your head spin, but it's also, I think, the podcast where everybody has a story. And this is a place where you can come and you can share your story. With that being said, one of the things that I was thinking about, because my life has taken this incredible turn for the better. I'm in a really positive space. I think that you can tell that in the new episodes, Vertigo for the Hardcore especially, rebranding myself. But I think that people are also catching that fire of, like, there's a new Sean that's coming out, and I'm really excited about it. And I've got a long way to go, which is why I'm doing this podcast today. In the introduction, I talk about feeling like a nobody going nowhere, because I very much felt like that. I very much had this part, or I was in this lane in life where I was just, had the cruise control set, man. I was just cruising down the highway, and it was all straightaways, and I was just trying to get to my destination. I wasn't really enjoying the ride very much. And things have changed for me. And I've got kind of this new outlook on life. And I'm approaching it with a different lens and positivity also. And also just really learning about me and not really being ashamed anymore of who I am. Like understanding this is who I am. And yes, there are changes that I want to make, but this is who I am. Like it or lump it, this is who I am. And again, not to say that there aren't changes for the better that need to be made, but also understanding that not all of me is bad. And so it's taken me a long time to get to that point. And I can freely say now, I like this version of Sean. I'm excited to see what's coming up next instead of being a little bit maybe fearful or anxious about what could be coming. So big changes. And I want to share how those changes have impacted my life. But in order to do that, I first need to go back and talk about, how I was feeling. And there was a point in my life that wasn't so long ago. It was in the pretty recent past where I really felt stuck, invisible, lost. And I felt like life's demands were just too heavy, I think some of that was burnout. I think some of it was unrealistic standards that I had placed on myself. I think I was exhausted. I think that there was a lot of things that were going on in the background. I think my relationship wasn't healthy. I didn't want to deal with it, though, because I didn't want to acknowledge that maybe we had gotten into the space of being in an impasse where things just weren't going to get better without really making drastic decisions or choices. That's tough too. Like who wants, it's hard. And all this was coming up at a time. It's like, I knew I needed to do it. I knew I needed to do it. But also, I don't know how to, but it's fair. It's scary, I guess, it's scary. Change is scary. I think that a lot of us end up in that space where, making changes feels like just, what if nobody likes us anymore? And there's all these things, at least in my mind, that go on, right? If I make changes, then what if somebody doesn't like me anymore? If I make changes, what if I don't like me anymore? I think that there's a lot of things that come into the mind, and I think the mind is also, we're so used to being in that one groove that coming outside of that groove is really difficult. And so I wanted to talk about that. When you're feeling like a nobody going nowhere, and I joked about this in the intro, and I think that it's often true, though. We're all somebody going somewhere. We're all, sure, the autopilot might be on, but we're still going somewhere. There's still a destination. And I think that we just have to come out of this negative I needed to come out of this negative self-talk, and I needed to start making some proper changes. And for me, it was just really starting to embrace change, not being scared of it, and also understanding that I needed to look at things through a more positive lens, that not everything is dreary and dreadful. I needed to really change my mindset. And I needed to make drastic changes to do that. I needed to make difficult decisions to do that. And there are still nights where I wonder if I made the right decisions, of course. But overall, my life is turning for the better. And there's still mourning that goes on for parts of the old life. I had to leave a 17-year relationship behind in order to make those changes for myself. That doesn't always feel so good. That doesn't always feel great, right? Knowing that I hurt somebody else, that feels selfish sometimes. And I also think that it's necessary. So that's really difficult. And I haven't, and I can't, again, there's no letters. Any of those who are just joining me, maybe this is the first podcast that you've listened to, there are no letters after my name. This is just a blue-collar guy and my spin on the world, hence vertigo. And also struggling with vertigo, as you probably heard if you listened to Dr. Bagnell and I talking. If you haven't listened to that episode, you really need to go back and listen to that episode. I'm telling you, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to have a guest on again. I had forgotten, actually, how fun it is to have a conversation with somebody else. I've just been so used to doing these pods on my own and conversing with myself, which I do quite a bit. I converse with myself really all day long, every day. I've noticed that I really don't. I'm never really quiet. I'm always thinking. I'm always spinning. There's that word again. We're always spinning. World is spinning. My head is spinning. This conversation is spinning. It's vertigo, baby. That's why we're here. So let's get back on topic. I was talking about being a nobody going nowhere. Oh, coming up later in this episode, you're going to love, so stay tuned, because I'm going to be talking about what's on my playlist, and it's actually not rock or metal. You're going to want to listen to that, aren't you? Haha. So feeling like a nobody going nowhere. Yeah, I have definitely experienced that in my life. I definitely have been in a pretty dark place, and I think I existed there for a lot of years. I don't think that I existed. I know that I existed there. I'm letting everybody know that, yes, I existed in that place for a lot of years. And when I started to make the healthy choices, and when I started to really think about what I wanted for myself, and I was always I was afraid of that sounding selfish. And I really needed to think about, like, what is selfish? Because we do need to take care of ourselves. We hear that. That's not a new buzzword. That's been around for a long time. Self-care, self-care, self-care. Take self-care. I never really understood what that meant, because to me, self-care felt really selfish. And I didn't know how to strip away the feeling of selfish. What I've come to understand is that selfish thought was really just fear, I guess, of stepping out and making a choice, because for whatever reason, my brain, I didn't have the self-esteem or the confidence. And so I needed to work on those. So this has all been a work in progress, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. If you're feeling like a nobody going nowhere, where you need to start is saying, I am somebody going somewhere, because that is really the truth. We're really not going nowhere. You know what I mean by that? The philosophy, right? If you're feeling like a nobody going nowhere because you feel lost, even maybe in a crowd. You feel lost. You feel non-existent. You feel like people do not see you. Okay? You feel like a nobody. And then your life is just the same. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you go to bed, you get up, you go to work, you come home, you go to bed, you get up, you go to work, you come home, you go to bed. One more time, get up, you go to work, you go... No, never mind. I don't know where we're going there. Sean, what are you doing? I must be in a singing kind of mood today, because I even wanted to sing during the intro. What if I just sang the whole podcast? If I just was like, hey, Vertigo Nation, today's topic is... We'll turn it into a musical, That would be pretty... I wonder if there's any musical... There's got to be, right? Somebody out there has to do a musical podcast. If not, here's what I'm going to put out. If there is not a musical podcast... What do you say we do one episode of Vertigo as a musical? Who is up for that? Just one episode. We'll do it as like a rock opera, right? We'll just write it out, and we'll just have to sing it the whole time. What do you think? Any guests open for that? You want to sing a Vertigo episode with me? You want to get on Vertigo and sing a little bit? Maybe talk about this topic in a singing voice. We feel like a nobody going nowhere. I've truly lost my marbles at this point. Yeah, dude, I don't really know where you were going with this. I have completely gone off the rails and forgot what I was talking about. So I'm going to try to reel it back in. If you feel like a nobody going nowhere, start with saying this. I am somebody. Because that's important. You have to acknowledge you are somebody. We are people. We are all somebody. We are all somebody's sons, daughters, spouses, parent. We are grandparent. We are somebody. To somebody, we are. We have to first acknowledge that. I am a father. I am a grandfather. I am somebody. Those things are important. And then recognize that I need to break the unhealthy cycles in my life. If I feel like I'm going nowhere, then what is that about? I need to make those decisions. I'm a creature. I'm a preacher. No, I'm a creature. I'm not a preacher. Not a preacher. Never have I been a preacher. But I am a creature. That I know. I'm a creature in the black night. You ever hear that song? It's by Dayseeker. Anyway, I am a creature of habit. I need to force myself sometimes to break these bad habits. Now, I don't even know if they're bad habits, actually. For example, I get home from work. I take Indy for a walk. Indy's my black lab, for those listeners who aren't sure. Indy is my black lab. So I take her for a walk, come back home, I make dinner, and hit the shower. Sometimes I hit the shower first, actually. It doesn't matter. My point is, I have this bubble that I live within, right? I walk Indy, I come home, I shower, make dinner, eat, watch a little TV, go to sleep, get up, repeat. So it can be very boring. And I know that I need to force myself like Sean. I need to say this to myself. Hey, buddy, you got to live a little bit. So it's not going to kill you if you come home, take Indy for a walk, because, she's been home now 10, 12 hours by herself. So that does need to happen, okay? However, there's no problem with saying, you know what, I'm going to load up and go to the lake, and I'll eat dinner later. I mean, I get out of work way early enough to enjoy the evening. I don't allow myself to do that. For some reason, it's my own self-talk and my own self that says, you need to do ABC, 1, 2, 3, and then repeat, day after day after day. So yeah, that gets pretty fucking old, pretty fucking quick, actually. So it's me that needs to interject, and that can be really difficult. But I've come to understand that that's where it is. So if you feel like a nobody going nowhere, remind yourself that you're somebody. And where do you want to go? That's what I needed to start. What do I want to do with my life? Where do I want it to go? For me, I was really disappointed that I had let Vertigo go, because I was really enjoying doing those episodes. And so the first thing for me was to get back to doing just this. Getting back to recording episodes of Vertigo was what was important for me. So find that for yourself. What is it for you that makes you somebody? What is it for you that makes you feel like you're going somewhere? And just introducing those subtle changes are absolutely incredible. And when you start making the small choices and start making the subtle changes, it's a lot easier to start making the bigger changes. I can tell you that. Because here I am. I'm living it. I have, honest to God, felt happiest probably in the last month. It's really caught fire. June was a tough month for me, but it's starting to pick up. I'm starting to catch a fire, and it's coming. And the ground is shaking, and it's rumbling. This is the dramatic episode. I'm going to take this Vertigo episode is going to be Vertigo for the Hardcore, the dramatic episode. This is the Drama Llama. Welcome aboard. Anyway, what is on my playlist? Actually, before I go there, I got to tell you, I'm a kid of the 80s. I've mentioned several times my age over the course of all of these podcasts, so I'm not going to repeat it again today. How old are you, Sean? Doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Tell everybody you know you want to. I've had this weird fascination with age since I was little. I don't know. I remember even having friends in school pick on me. I remember listening to the Beach Boys, and I remember making a comment, I wonder how old they are, and I remember one of my friends looking at me and go, like, what the fuck does it matter? Like, who thinks about that stuff? But I'm always thinking about age for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't know where that comes from. It's a weird tick that I have. That's my tick. I have this weird thing where I'm always, like, wondering, how old is that person? And I don't know what the hell that means, actually. I have no idea. Like, what does age I don't know what because it doesn't matter to me. Somebody could say, "Oh, I'm 23, I'm 26, I'm 38, I'm 44, I'm 102." It doesn't matter. I'm just like, "Oh, okay." Just knowing for some reason, I'm like, "Oh, cool, okay, thank you." Thank you for sharing that. Maybe it's because it's those questions that you're not supposed to ask, like how much do you weigh and how old are you? Well, fuck, let's just get it out of the way. I weigh 170 pounds and I'm 50 years old. There you fucking go. Ha! Where was I going? I completely have derailed now. I have no idea. Holy shit. What did that even matter? Where were you talking about, buddy? Where were you going with that? I watched the He-Man Masters of the Universe movie. That's where I was going with it. Holy hell. Okay. So here's the deal. I'm a kid of the 80s, yes, and I used to come home and watch the WSTM Club. That was a thing out of Syracuse, New York. So if you're not from the central New York region, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, even if you are a kid from the 80s, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure you had something similar in your area, I think, probably, right? But for me, anyway, it was the WSTM Club. I'd get home from school, and I think I've talked about this in past episodes, so I'm gonna tell you again. So if you already heard this story, this would be the time for you to you just tune out for a minute, or roll the window down, order that coffee, whatever. If you don't want to hear the story again, but it's a good story, so I encourage you to just stay tuned and hang on a minute because it's not going to last that long. So I was a kid of the 80s, and I belonged to the WSTM Club, which was just a way probably for the network to make some money, I'm sure. Because I was too young to even really know what that meant. But I know I had a little card for my wallet that I thought was pretty cool. So that was interesting. And so every day after school, you would put on Channel 3, which was what WSTM was. And they had cartoons, He-Man being one of them. He-Man, Ghostbusters, Scooby-Doo. The Ghostbusters was kind of like that one always changed. Because I remember I always being disappointed when the Ghostbusters cartoon came on. Because the Ghostbusters cartoon, in my opinion, wasn't that great, I guess. I liked He-Man. I loved Scooby-Doo. Who doesn't love Scooby-Doo? I, as an adult, still watch Scooby-Doo. I've gone back and actually watched the old Scooby-Doo movies. And that's when they had all the guest stars in there. For example, they had the Harlem Globetrotters. I don't know, whoever was big at the time. Gosh, I'm going to have to Google it. But I did go back and start watching some of the Scooby-Doo movies where they had the celebrity guests drawn in there. And that was so cool, right? I mean, who doesn't remember the Harlem Globetrotters episode when they were on Scooby-Doo? That one was probably one of my most favorite episodes. Do people still know who the Harlem Globetrotters are? That's a good... I'm going to do that. If I remember by the time this episode ends, I'm going to put a little poll up to see just how many people remember the Harlem Globetrotters or even got to witness the Harlem Globetrotters. I don't catch them on TV anymore. They used to be on TV. I remember it kind of being like a Saturday night or Friday night. I don't remember what night, but kind of like a special event when the Harlem Globetrotters would be on TV facing whatever professional team. And it was always cool to kind of tune in. But like I said, I think they're still around. I don't know. I'm going to put a poll up, though, if you've heard of the Harlem Globetrotters or not. Anyway, moving on. I watched the He-Man Masters of the Movie. I watched the He-Man Masters of the Universe movie last night, which doesn't matter what night that was. I watched it the night before recording this. And it was okay. It was all right. I mean... I thought it was cool. Dolph Lundgren was in it, and he was in the first Masters of the Universe movie, I think, which was 87 or 88. So it was kind of cool that he was in that movie, and kind of so it's not like they tried to cancel that movie out and say it wasn't a true reboot. I guess they didn't try to pretend that the movie didn't exist, but it was pretty good in that aspect. Like there was little Easter eggs like that I thought were kind of cool. And I do think it was kind of cool that they tried to stick to the original Hasbro toy line and kind of make it feel, nostalgic for those of us who would have remembered that. But I don't know. At the same time, it was missing something because it didn't really grab my attention to draw me in. In my opinion, it was very slow paced. And I guess it's the whole origin story thing. Why do we have to have so many origin stories? I don't really understand that. Every comic book movie, we need to do the origin story first. It's you know what, man? if you're making a movie on these characters, chances are we, the people, already know who the fuck they are. That's why we're going to the movie. We're going to the movie because we already know who they are. Nobody goes to the movie and says, I don't know who Superman is, but I think I want to go watch that movie. No, they're like, oh, Superman, that's cool. I used to read those comics as a Batman. Oh, that's cool. I used to read the Wonder Woman. Oh, that's cool. I read those. Nobody needs the origin story. You know? Like, enough, man. Just do the movie. And if you don't know who the character is and you've just shown up to watch the movie, which I don't know anybody. I mean, maybe people do that. Do people do that? They don't know who the character is. They just show up. What I'm talking about when it's like comic book stuff, like the people just are like, I don't think somebody who's never, ever, ever heard of Spider-Man. And is it even possible to like have never heard of Spider-Man? Is that possible? Is it possible in 2026 to have never heard of Spider-Man? If you've never heard of Spider-Man in 2026, then I absolutely believe in that theory where, like, I can't remember what it's called, but like Fruit of the Loom says that there's no cornucopia on their underwear. Bullshit. I saw a cornucopia. I know it's there. You can go on the internet. Reddit told me it's there. I know. I saw it on Reddit. It's there. I mean, Reddit's the front page of the internet, for fuck's sake. It's there. Shazam. What's his name? Never was in the Shazam movie. Bullshit. Pretty sure I owned it. I just can't prove it. What was that dude's name anyway? He was a comedian. Sinbad. Sinbad said, I never did a Shazam movie. Bullshit. I know you did. I know you did. You're all lying. Everybody's lying to me. No, I'm just kidding. You are now witnessing the mental health breakdown on Vertigo. No, I'm just kidding. Let's get back to the episode. So I watched the He-Man of the Masters. He-Man of the... Wow. Okay, Sean. We're going to leave that right there because I'm pretty sure everybody's head is now spinning. Because mine is. Mine spun clear off my shoulders at this point. I watched He-Man Masters of the Universe. The movie was okay. Let's leave. Okay, mic drop. Boom. Done. Moving on. What's on my playlist? Bluegrass. That's right. I created a bluegrass playlist on my phone to listen to at work. I forgot how much I enjoy bluegrass, first of all. Second of all, I created this really cool playlist on Apple Music called Smokin' Grass. Haha. You get it? I'll give you a minute to think about that. Okay. I created this playlist called Smokin' Grass, and it's all bluegrass. And I have forgotten how much I love bluegrass music. And I know there seems to always be these trends where musical genres kind of resurface. And for example, Billy Strings is really popular right now, and so I think there's a lot of eyes on bluegrass. However, I want to highlight a band that I think is absolutely incredible out of Canada called the Dead South. That's what's on my playlist this week as I talk about what's on my playlist. The Dead South. I absolutely... First of all, they covered the song 99 Bitter Beings, which, if you've never heard that song, back in the Jackass days when that was on MTV, Bam Margera, I think it's his brother, is in that band, Camp Kill Yourself, CKY. So they were one of these, punk, hardcore metal band conglomerates. They were a little bit of everything. But they did this song, 99 Bitter Beings. It's probably one of their most popular songs by CKY. Well, anyway, what was the name of the Dead South. Wow, that's all I could say. The Dead South, Canadian bluegrass folk, I would call them bluegrass though, covered that song, and it was great. And that's what caught me first. And then I started listening to their other albums. And then, interestingly enough, I was sitting in a tattoo studio not so long ago, probably April, maybe May, getting some tattoo work done. And the artist was listening to the Dead South. And it just, so I just went back and revisited some of their music, and I absolutely love the Dead South. So if you don't know who I'm talking about, get on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, wherever you listen to your music, and dial up the Dead South and give them a listen, especially if you love acoustic, folk, bluegrass music. It kind of all falls into that same like if you're one of these people that gets up and listens to, now this is for my Central New York listeners, because outside of Central New York, I understand that you're not going to probably know what I'm talking about. But TK99 does the Blue Moon Cafe every Sunday morning. And it's just a radio program, and it plays, classic rock, but it's more dialed down, acoustic. So it's acoustic renditions of songs. You get like Tom Waite. Who else would who would be in there? I'm trying to think. Tom Waite. I can't think off the top of my head right now. So anyway, the guy who sang Gordon Lightfoot. Holy hell. Yeah, Gordon Lightfoot. Stuff like that, so it's that folkier 70s folky kind of music. Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul and Mary, so the 60s, 70s folky stuff, but they have some more current in there as well. But if you like that kind of folky acoustic, then you'll definitely like the Dead South, I would think. I also see that there is kind of a resurgence of that folk music is coming back, or bluegrass even. There's another band called the Bridge City Sinners that I really like. They can be a little much sometimes with their aesthetic, and if you know who the Bridge City Sinners are, then you'll understand they have that like goth kind of thing. And I don't know, I'm not one. I mean, I understand that all bands have a gimmick. Some are just more so than others. Kiss, for example, is a band that is over the top with their gimmick. And after a while, I feel like it takes away from the music. And that can be a whole nother topic for a podcast. If so, that would be I would love to have that conversation with somebody, actually. There's two conversations I would love to have. One, I'm already in the mix of getting it scheduled. I'm going to be talking about punk rock. Not just a history of. I made a comment that I thought that the Grateful Dead were really the kind of the pioneers of punk rock, and that pisses a lot of punks off. But I'd love to have a conversation about it, and I've already got somebody in the mix who's going to have that conversation with me. So I've just got to get that scheduled. But then I would also love to have a conversation just about like when does the gimmick kind of overtake? In my opinion, like Kiss, the gimmick kind of overtook Kiss. And it became less about the music and more about the gimmick. And then for me, I lose interest. Slipknot, kind of similar too. Like the mask thing was really cool. But after a while, I think it just gets old because it's like the only thing that people really care about is what the masks are. And it's like, I want to listen to the music. I want to hear the music. So when it starts to take away from the music, I think it's like too much. So that's just my thought. What do I know? So, what's on my playlist? Yes. What is on my playlist? The Dead South. But I made this whole thing. So, let me go through some of the bands that are on this playlist. Again, I titled the playlist Smoking Grass, for anybody who cares. Maybe I'll share it. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to fucking share it. I'm going to share it on Apple Music. I'll open it up and share it. So, if you have Apple Music and you want to hear my Smoking Grass playlist, I'm going to put it as shareable so that people can find it. But, yeah, it's Yonder Mountain, Green Sky Bluegrass, String Dusters. There's some good stuff, but there's some great covers in there too. But the main band that I really was digging was the Dead South. So that's what's on my playlist. All right. Then I'm going to end the episode right there. This has been one crazy episode. This is definitely an episode that will make your head spin. If you have not listened to the conversation with Dr. Bagnell, it was the podcast that dropped before this one. I encourage you to go back. That one was so fun to record, and I am absolutely going to try and get Dr. Bagnell back so that we can have just a continuation of that conversation. I think, like I said, I got a lot of response and people wanting more, which is great, right? Leave them wanting more. That's what I was told by somebody once upon a time ago. Anyway, this is Vertigo. This is the podcast that will make your head spin. Thank you for joining me. Be kind, love one another, and remember two things. I don't care what they are, just remember them. Make your head spin, ladies and gentlemen of the Vertigo Nation. Be well, be kind, love one another. Peace.